right, welcome back again. So we're going to start preparing the HTML sum for the content. And the first thing that I want to prepare is I kind of want to prepare a container for my router outlet. So it's kind of interesting that with the router outlet, you can do things inside the router outlet, or you can do things like outside the router outlet. The nice thing is about doing things outside the router outlet is that everybody gets it for free from that point on. The downside is if you want anything specific, you have to do it inside the router outlet. So we're gonna do some things to kind of prepare our router outlet area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my app component again. So this is things that like surround the router outlet, and I'm gonna add a little bit around the outside. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do kind of like a little bit of testing. Whenever I'm doing testing, one thing that I can do is I can actually add a style attribute like right away. And so let's just go ahead and bear with me here, and we're going to add a style attribute to make it yellow and mostly opaque, but not quite fully opaque. And so what this will do is this will kind of show me, what is the area that I have prepared for my router outlet. So if I save this up and I come look at it, you can see that actually is what is prepared for my router outlet. So you might not have guessed that it fits to the router outlet. It stretches to both sides, and you actually got for free a little margin, right? So you got a little margin due to the toolbar that's above you. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And actually, this trick, by the way, of just adding a style attribute can actually be really handy. And so what I'm going to do is anytime I've got a trick that I use a lot, I like to make a snippet for it, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Control X to kind of have that be on my clipboard. And then I'm going to click on, it's different on Windows users. I forget what it is. So for me, so you want user snippets is what you want. For me, it's code preferences user snippets. On Windows, it's probably like file preferences user snippets or something like that. And what I want to do is I want to make an HTML snippet. And the HTML snippet that I want to make, I've already got mine done here. It kind of looks like this. So it says, during development background color. So the easiest thing to do is just to copy one of theirs, right? You can just kind of copy this thing right here. And I'm just going to have you type it. So type during development background color. So that's kind of what this little snippet is for. The prefix, so in their example it said log, so we're going to change it to a hyphen. I like to start them all with a hyphen because some of the ones that we got from that plugin start with a hyphen, and I just make mine start with a hyphen, and then that way they kind of work seamlessly together. That way I don't have to remember if I made it or if I got it from that extension. So a hyphen style background. And what we're going to do for what we paste in is this. So we're going to put in style equals. Note I used a single bracket here, or a single quote here, and that's just because on the outside I use double quotes, and you can use either in HTML. And I'm going to say background, probably should have put in background color just to be more specific, and RGBA just so I can get an alpha transparency. And then I put in a $0 right here, and the reason I put it right here is because I have to type in 3 values, one for red, one for green, one for blue. But I prefer to just type them, so I just put my %0, so that's going to be where the final cursor position is, right there, and then I'll just type the rest. And my opacity I'll set to 80%, which is not quite opaque, but pretty opaque. And then in the description you can write whatever you want, but I just wrote, during development I sometimes set crazy background colors. And that's just a trick that I use, just when I'm trying to figure out my HTML. And so if I typed a hyphen style, oops, that did not work out the way I wanted. Type a hyphen style background. I need to get the right one. Now it's a quick way to add on things like this. So if I wanted to make it red and save it, you can see that now it makes it red. So it's just a quickie thing for like as I'm doing development and trying to figure out what's where. So obviously I'll take that off at some point, but I'm going to do a little bit more, and then I'll take it off later. So the next thing I want to do is I like to use Flexbox whenever I can. So I've found that it's usually wise to go ahead and put things inside of a angular flex layout rule. And so this one, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap the whole thing in a flex layout align of center center. This won't make a tremendous difference on the program yet. Actually, it did. So with flex rules, things wrap to their contents by default, apparently. And you can see that it changed a couple of things. And to be honest, I find that Flexbox works more like how I think. So I like to just put it into a Flexbox, and things usually go better there. The next thing I want to do is I kind of want this guy here. I think of him as my container. So I'm going to go ahead and put a class on here called container. And I'll add some rules for it later, but I just kind of I think of that as my container. And the rules that I'm going to add to this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more flex rules. So I'm going to type them, and then we're going to talk about them. And so what I'm going to add here is I'm going to add 2 rules. I'm going to add my first rule that says that this thing is flex. And then the second rule says override that default for medium screens and make them exactly 960. And that way, if you're on a medium screen, it'll only get so big. And we could actually do more than just medium. So we could say, hey, if you're on medium, do that. But if you're in greater than medium, do 1100. And again, we could go find in the documentation exactly where I found that. I could go point to it. What the heck, I'll point to it one more time. So those are in the Flex Layout docs, which hopefully you've saved a bookmark to. And what you can do is you can use their responsive API, and you can figure out if something is medium, then it's between 960 or 1279. If it's greater than medium, it's obviously something that's 1280 or bigger. And you can use these rules, with other rules to do specific things. So here we're saying, like, if it's medium, make its width exactly that. If it's greater than medium, make its width exactly that. And then if it's not any of those, so if it's basically less than medium, then default to flexing. And what this gives you is this gives you the ability to do certain things. So here I've made it default to flexing if it's less than 96 or 960. As soon as I go bigger than 960, which is hard for me to do while recording this video, I can cheat and zoom out though. You can see that eventually it starts maintaining its sides. And then if you get small enough, it jumps to that large setting, which is hard for me to show in a video, but if I've got a big external monitor, I can see that it works. So it's kind of a neat thing. I guess the other thing you could do to see if it works is you could change these to small and things like that, but I'm not too worried about it. The other thing I wouldn't mind doing is see how the word main kind of smushes right up to the edge of the red. So I've got this class of container on here, and that'll be handy. So I can say containers should have a padding. Let's just put on 20 pixels for now. And so now I'm just kind of preparing the content with a couple of things, not a lot, just so it's kind of like, all the same on the outside. I think that that's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to get rid of my style. That was just kind of a temporary thing. Easy to put them on, easy to take them off. And then my kind of container for my router outlet is ready. So if I go review this, so there's just a couple things around my container, and so a little CSS. So I'll call this preparing the router outlet container. And there's different ways to do things like that, but that's a pretty, fairly straightforward, make your container look a little bit better. So we'll see you next time, and we'll tackle this page. All right, we'll see you then. Bye.